Well, we're celebrating a big happy birthday to Powerball. Big ball, right? Popular lottery game turns 30 years old today. I'm sure many of you played at some point in your life, right? Probably won something, maybe. I don't know, $1 or $2? How does that work, Joe? We get a couple out of this? Yeah. In the 30-year history of the Powerball, 36 Idahoans have won prizes that have made them millionaires. One man still owns the Idaho record for biggest payout. Way back in 2005, Brad Duke won more than $220 million on Powerball. It was nearly 10 years after that, Pam Hyatt won about $90 million from Powerball. And did you know this? They bought their tickets at the same gas station in Boise. Yes, the numbers of that happening, highly improbable. Because of that, the Jacksons on Orchard is known as the luckiest store in America. Well, to mark the 30th birthday of Powerball, Joe Paris visited the luckiest store in America and revisited the memories Brad Duke had of winning the big one, the Powerball jackpot.
It's a celebration at a gas station for one round red regular. It's 30 years for Mr. Powerball. On April 19, 1992, a new lottery game, Powerball, sold its first tickets. And over the last 30 years in Idaho, Powerball has sold close to $900 million in tickets in the gem state. Idahoans have won more than $595 million in prizes, while also contributing about $400 million in dividends to benefit Idaho public schools and buildings. In 2005, Idahoan Brad Duke bought a Powerball ticket that would go on to be one of the biggest winners ever. And as a part of the Powerball celebration, Mr. Duke sat down with KTVB to reminisce about a dream so many have fantasized about, winning the lottery.
Who was I before?
Duke was working in management for a Treasure Valley Gold's Gym and was passionate about his career path. Even before winning $220 million, Duke felt he was on a great path toward success.
I really didn't think things could get better for me, and I remember thinking that, and within that week, this happened.
Duke won one of the largest Powerball prizes to date from the exact same gas station that Idahoan Pam Hyatt won her Powerball jackpot from a decade earlier. So, who was the first person Mr. Duke called? Well, it was his dad.
Dad, sit down and prepare for some life-changing news. And he says, oh, you're getting married. And I said, no. And he goes, well, you must be that guy that won the lottery.
Duke recalls still working at Gold's Gym right after he won the millions. He did have to leave shortly after because of all the attention and distractions coming their way.
And the phones were ringing off the hook at some point that had nothing to do with inquiries about the business. So, but I think I kept teaching spin class for over a year. Wow. Yeah, so I was still showing up and working twice a week on some level for well over a year.
Duke took a lump sum payout from his big win that, by the way, was a double win. Did you know this? Duke got first and third prize on the same ticket. But what to do with millions of dollars?
Best part of winning, being able to give back in my retrospect, has been the best part.
Duke has worked to donate and contribute to Idaho communities through the Duke Family Foundation. Another passion for Duke, helping Idaho youth.
Our biggest partners are always youth mentoring programs, and the notion behind that is sometimes kids can't pick their own circumstance, but if you can influence a better circumstance for a kid and they go on to do something great, it's kind of the pay it forward thing that me and my family and my board really buy into, and that's our focus.
The money, as you can imagine, is of course incredible. How could it not be? Could you even make up what you would do in your head with all that money? Well, Duke says, without being cliche though, there is something from his journey that still brings him the most joy.
We didn't have a lot when we grew up, but for my parents to look upon what we've done in our family name and to see how proud my dad is as good as the projects itself at times.
Lots more plans. Okay, so some of us have been around long enough to remember when
Yes.
Allison Newton talked to Brad Duke when he won that. He was in hiding for a bit, but then he said he has even bigger plans. Like he said back then that he wanted to turn that $220 million into $1 billion. How close is he?
He hasn't done it, and actually we talked to him about that on Friday, and we asked, well, do you plan on still doing this? And he said, yes, it's still part of his top 3 priorities in life is to turn his earnings and all his work into $1 billion. He hasn't done it yet, but I guess fingers crossed, maybe he'll get to do it. I think it's so interesting, Brian, and you know the story going back to 2005. Mr. Duke he actively tried to win the Powerball using different patterns and strategies to get out there and get the best combination. I think it's really interesting to me, and maybe I should have mentioned this. So he wins $220 million on the ticket. 2 lines down, as we showed you, he was still a $10,000 winner.
Yeah.
So he has a system. Clearly, it worked for him. I have my own system, Brian. I just print the money myself.
You just print it out yourself.
Joe Bucks.
How often does he play?
Now, I don't know.
Okay, because I'm going to say, we're all kind of working on $1 billion. I mean, but
Yeah.
if he hasn't won since, that formula might need to be a little tweaked. Might be.
Well, I think he's also trying to build anyways.
That's true. All right, thanks, Joe.
Look for some Joe Bucks out there.
Joe Bucks.